Jaya Shriman Narayana. Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Jaya Shri Guru. Sanatana Dharma Jayate. Dharma Rashtra Jayate. Om Hrihi Om. Very good. Namaste, everyone. It's wonderful to be here with you again on this Monday evening, at least what is for us in the Midwest of America, a Monday evening. Thank you all again very much for being here with us for our weekly live stream satsangha that we do every Monday at 7 p.m. Central Time here on YouTube. It is absolutely wonderful being with you. As you know, last week we did things a little bit differently. Usually, the vast majority of the time, the way that we do these satsanghas is that I'll have 1, 2, maybe even more verses from Vedic scriptures, and I'll read them to everyone and then comment upon them, give a formal lecture. And then after that, we have questions and answers. Well, last time we did things a little bit differently, where I talked about something called the Vedic Heartland Initiative. And I won't go any more deeply into that. You can look at the video of the last live stream if you want to hear more about that. And I decided to do that instead. Well, this week also, we're going to be doing something quite different. Again, I'm not going to be speaking about a specific Vedic scripture and commenting. Maybe next time that we get together, next Monday, possibly we'll do that again. But what I want to talk about instead is something that is very practical, something that is very timely, something that is very crucial for what is happening in the world today. And honestly, especially in America, Europe to some extent as well. And that is being prepared for the times that are coming ahead. That is being prepared for what is going to be happening leading up to what I have been telling people for a very, very long time, many, many, many years, ultimately will occur, and that is a coming golden age. Well, interestingly, I've explained to people many, many times that indeed we are going to be entering into a new golden age. This is something that many authentic spiritual people have predicted. It's something that's mentioned in the Puranas. It's something that's mentioned in the Vedic scriptures. It's something that Prabhupada spoke about, where he stated that we would have a mini golden age within the context of the larger Kali Yuga that would last for approximately 10,000 years. And again, I myself have been telling you this through many videos for many, many years. Well, this is indeed going to happen. Ultimately, we need to be extremely optimistic about the future. The future is going to be good, let me tell you. And I mean spiritually and materially, even materially as well. We are going to experience an era in the future of great prosperity for all people, of great abundance for all people, and abundance in every way, not merely wealth, but abundance spiritually as well, in every way imaginable. We're going to see a rebirth of culture, true culture, of civilization, true civilization. We are going to see the re-spiritualization of the planet. We're going to see Dharma embraced by more and more people. And I can go on. Trust me. I think you know if you've listened to my talks. I can go on and on describing how, yes, we're going to have a beautiful golden age in the immediate future. Not 1,000 years from now, not 200 years, not 100 years. But many of us will experience the beginnings of this in our lifetime. In between here and there, however, things are going to indeed be very interesting, as they have been, as we have seen for the last several years. both in America, but again, by extension, throughout the world. We've seen that the last several years have been times like none other, where for those of us who are awake, for those of us who truly know how to see and how to listen, for those of us who do our own independent research, for those of us who do not merely blindly trust the mainstream media, but rather understand that the mainstream media is 100% propaganda, and who instead have the wisdom, have the intelligence, have the foresight and the discernment to instead get information about the world from alternative sources. For those of us who have done this, indeed, we know what is coming, but we also know that things have been very, very different for the last several years. Thus, when I say these days, it's interesting, when I began telling people about this golden age, maybe several decades ago, people would still be skeptical somewhat. Not now. Now people understand that with all the craziness that is happening on the planet today, and again, especially America, we are heading towards something. We are being guided towards something. And what is wonderful is we are being guided toward that something by truly a benevolent hand, by the hand of God. But between now, that is literally today as you're watching this live stream live, and when the golden age begins, within that interim, yes, things may get worse. We don't know. I'm not one of these people, as much as I talk about the golden age and I can tell you much of the details about it, I'm not one of these people who pretends I know things that I don't. So I can't give you exact specifications of, oh, on this date, this date, this will happen, this will be good, this will be bad, etc. Anyone who pretends that they can, that's a fraud. And I'm not a fraud. So I will not pretend that I know exactly what's going to happen. What I do know is what the scriptures say. What I do know is what great acharyas and true rishis of the past have said. What I do know is what is given to me personally as insight due to spiritual awareness, etc. And things may indeed get worse before they get better. I've said that in previous videos. I've said that, in fact, for years. So what I want to do today is to very specifically, in, again, a very optimistic way, very, very optimistic. I am known for being what is called white-pilled. In other words, I tend to be extremely optimistic when it comes to the idea of good triumphing ultimately in this world. In a very optimistic way, I want to discuss just a few important principles that people indeed need to know if they want to prepare themselves for the times that are ahead. That is, the next several months, maybe the next year, something like that, as we are indeed going through this transitional phase. What do we see around us today? And again, forgive me those who are outside of America right now. I am addressing primarily America, but not only America, because as I think many of you know, everything I'm discussing, it affects you too. Because again, even in many places, especially in Europe and other places, you have also begun to see some of these problems. What is happening? Well, of course, there's the COVID pandemic. Well, this entire pandemic is something that, as we know, has changed the world. Well, this will go on for a little bit longer, but eventually it will come to an end. Also in America, what we have seen is that America has become a very dangerous place in some instances. If you live in cities, especially that are the largest cities that are controlled by one particular political party with a left-wing ideology, what you've seen is that these cities have become extremely dangerous. Many of them have been for a long time. They've been slowly getting worse. But now the situation has been exacerbated to the point where many people who even a year ago were living in America, were living in New York, in Boston, in Dallas, in Houston, in Chicago, in Portland, in Detroit, and on and on and on. Even a year ago, people did not believe that things would get as bad as they are today. So what I'm going to be talking about, and again, in an optimistic, very realistic sort of way, are a few things that I indeed want to share with people as far as what needs to be done very specifically to prepare yourself, to make sure that you do not become, let's say, a victim of violence, a victim of rioting, a victim of left-wing terrorism, etc., 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 but more, that you yourself as an individual, and if you have a family, that your family as well, not only remains safe, but also that you transform yourselves in such a way that you indeed become worthy denizens of this golden age that is to come. And that more, in this interim period, that you yourself have the strength within you to help to make this as smooth a transition as we wish it to be. So, all that being said, this is ultimately the message of my talk today. Expect the very best, because again, there will be a golden age. But at the same time, very intelligently, prepare for the worst. See, this is what an intelligent individual does. You are ultimately extremely optimistic. You are prepared for the best to come. You expect the best, but at the same time, you are prepared for anything that might occur. All right, several things that I want to discuss. The first is the most obvious for myself as a spiritual teacher, as a representative of Sanatana Dharma, and that is, first of all, prepare yourself spiritually for the times that are ahead. Prepare yourself spiritually. Now, for those of you who have been coming to these live satsanghas for the last several months, for those of you who have seen my many videos from the past, who have read my books, etc., you know that this is my primary message indeed, is spirituality. That ultimately, whatever, let's say, peripheral problem we have in our life, ultimately, we need to make sure that we work on our spiritual foundation. Then, from that area of peace being centered, then we have the ability to, with a calm mind, solve every other problem that we have. So this is the first thing, is what I would ask everyone to do. And that is focus on spirituality as much as possible. What does this mean? Absolutely, continue to watch these live streams, but don't just watch live streams. Practice. Practice spirituality. You see, a spirituality that is not practiced is a spirituality that ultimately is, interestingly, meaningless. If spirituality is just something that is meant to occupy our curiosity, then it's kind of a meaningless pursuit. Rather, spirituality is something that is meant to be practiced. What does this mean? Well, daily. And if you are doing this already, wonderful, wonderful. You have my congratulations. If not, then please begin to do this. Begin to do puja and meditation daily. Now, what does this do? For those of you who do not understand what the word puja means, basically worship of God. Have a home altar, and each day just offer a little something to God. Offer some incense, offer some water, offer a flower, etc. But each day do puja, that is worship God. Each day sit in meditation. And if you don't know how to do meditation, we have many, many videos that can help you with that, to teach you how to do authentic Vedic meditation in such a way that you gain all of the benefits of meditation all at once, not just some benefits, but indeed the way that we teach meditation in the International Sanatana Dharma Society is to focus on the divine names of God via what are called mantras. So, sitting each day, meditate on the mantra. Om Namo Narayanaya. Om Namo Narayanaya. And like this, you will begin to journey within. You will begin to understand yourself better. You will begin to experience the presence of God more and more. Your mind will become calmer. Your mind will become clearer. It will become crisp and clear. You will be able to think more sharply than you ever have in the past. Practice meditation each day. In addition, have an active prayer life. That is, speak to God as much as you can each day. Don't be afraid to actually pray. You know, people have asked me this before about the Vedic tradition, and that is, do we believe in prayer? Do we do prayer, etc.? The answer is absolutely. We absolutely believe in communing with God verbally, even if that means, if not out loud, then in our mind. Take shelter of God. Pray to God as much as possible. Pray to God for, first of all of the truly important spiritual attainments that you wish to have. Pray to God that God will bestow his grace upon you in such a way that you will increase your surrender to God. Pray to God that you will know him better. Pray to God that you may serve him better. But then in addition to all of these very pure prayers, also feel free to ask God to help you with practical things as well. People have asked me this. Oh, is it appropriate? I have a family member who's ill, who's in the hospital or something like this. Is it appropriate to pray to God? Oh, please, God, help my loved one. It is indeed appropriate. Because if we cannot turn to God, who can we turn to? So begin to have a very active prayer life where each day, privately, quietly, you speak with God, and in that way you don't feel alone. Surrender to God and have dependency upon God. This is the next thing. As much as is possible, as we go through this time of, again, craziness and crisis with so many negative, violent things happening in the world, surrender your life unto God. Do what is called prapatti, and that is simply surrender your entire being, your entire self at the feet of God. And without motivation, without any selfishness, without any self-centeredness whatsoever, relinquishing ego, relinquishing false self. Instead, give yourself unto God and understand your dependency upon God. Now, I need to make a clarification with this very important caveat, and that is, we are indeed dependent upon God, ultimately. You see, this is why fools who say that I am God, no, God is the ultimate independent. We are dependent. That very same New Age fool who says, I am God, is dependent upon food, is dependent upon so many. Oh, the list is long and humorous. The number of things that person who very arrogantly claims, I am God. No, that person is dependent upon everything around him. That person is dependent upon electricity. That person is dependent upon friends. That person is dependent upon everyone. The difference with we who are humble devotees of Krishna, of Narayana, is that we understand our dependence and we don't see it as something threatening. We understand we are dependent upon God. But on the other hand, do not use the fact of our dependence upon God as an excuse to then do nothing with your life. To then say, no, I don't have to really do anything. I don't have to improve myself. I don't have to do anything in this world to make the world a better place. We're all just dependent upon God, and whatever God wants will happen, and I'm just going to sit back and do nothing. There is no great rishi, no truly great yogi, no great acharya, no great spiritual teacher or leader of the past who lived their life in such a passive and meaningless way. No. True sages understand their absolute and utter dependence upon God on the one hand. On the other hand, they do things in this world, and they try to do them massively. So understand that you are dependent upon God on the one hand, but on the other hand, again, do everything that you need to benefit yourself spiritually, to benefit your family, and more, to help to awaken as many people in this world as you can. You as an individual, given your station, your capabilities, etc., your place in life. So, several more things that I want to say as far as dealing with the spiritual aspects of what we should be doing. To prepare ourselves for the times ahead. There are several personal qualities that we should develop as well. And I want to talk about these. Truthfully, the number of personal qualities that are necessary to develop, there's no limit to them. But these are some of the most important ones to get through the next several months. Again, maybe a year or so. I don't know for sure. No one really does. But however long it will be, these are several important, let's say, character traits that I would encourage everyone out there to please try their best to develop. One of them is equipoise. The idea of equipoise. You see, what we see is that, again, our world has become very unpredictable. And it is simply the nature of human beings that when things are unpredictable, well, what tends to happen? what tends to happen is that people become agitated. They lose their peace. They lose the ability to approach the situation in front of them, the problem in front of them, in such a way that they can actually solve the problem. Instead, they become very agitated. Well, the opposite of this destructive, self-destructive mindset is having a sense of equipoise, and that is balance in all things. This is a very interesting example that I've given many, many times in different contexts. And it's unfortunate I don't have an image here, but this is a famous image that everybody has seen, and that is Nataraja. If you know this very famous image of Shiva, of Nataraja, where he is dancing, and it is the dance of destruction, where the universe is coming to an end. And what do we see? Well, we see that Nataraja is dancing wildly. His limbs are all up in the air, and his leg is up in the air dancing, and his hair is going wild, and all around him there is a circle of flames, etc. And we see all this activity. But what is the one thing that people, sadly, often miss when they look at this image? It is the face of Nataraja. When you see his face is at peace. This is how we are meant to be, and this is what is meant by being equipoised. That regardless of all that's happening around us, good, bad, peaceful, not peaceful, we ourselves are centered at all times. So I would ask that you have this equipoise. The next one is gravitas. This is something that every leader should have. I've talked about gravitas, dhira, it's called in Sanskrit. But the truth of the matter is, this is something that every human being needs to develop, and that is gravitas. What does that mean? That means that, again, whatever is happening around us, we are like a mountain. We are a being that cannot be moved by anything lesser than us. We have strength. We have a quiet strength of character, such that whatever is happening around us, again, we are not moved by fads. We are not moved by, as I was saying before, whatever propaganda, mainstream media, CNN, MSNBC, all of these, New York Times, Washington Post, etc., etc., etc. We are not moved by the misinformation that they give us. Rather, in a very calm, very dignified manner, we attain the information ourselves. So we are to have this dignity of gravitas at all times. Another very important point is detachment. We are, again, to be detached, and this goes along with being equipoised. And what is meant by detached is not detached in, of course, an unhealthy way, not detached meaning not caring. Detached meaning that we understand priorities. Detached meaning that, yes, something might go great one day for us, but then the next day, again, due to all these various crises that are happening, maybe someone close to us loses their job, or economically something doesn't go well, etc. Regardless of what happens to us, good or bad, we are to be detached, understanding that ultimately we are Atman, we are consciousness, we are spirit soul, and my soul is affected by nothing outside of myself. So thus we are to have this healthy detachment to life. Discernment. Discernment is something else that is extremely important, and that is we need to, and I'll state this very simply, we need to be intelligent. People are not intelligent today. Oh my God. I think this is probably the most uncontroversial statement any human being on the planet can make today. People are not intelligent today. People have lost the ability to discern, to judge, to be able to think discursively, etc. Well, we need to have discernment. We need to have the ability to, again, with any situation that occurs in our life, make sense of it. Make sense of it by using factual information, not emotion. See, too many people today make decisions based on emotion, or again, what the media tells them, which is basically the same thing, fantasy. Cannot make decisions based upon fantasy. We must make decisions based upon fact and evidence, based upon what we have seen with our own eyes, and using the wisdom of the ancients, using the wisdom of Sanatana Dharma, of the rishis, using our own innate wisdom faculty, we need to make decisions that ultimately will help us and not harm us. This is another very important one that it may surprise people that I will bring this up. Situational awareness. Again, for those of my students who are out there, who very sadly you find yourself in one of these roughly top 25, top 30 biggest cities in America, and then other places as well. Again, this applies to London, to Berlin, to Paris, to so many different places. This applies to Mumbai, this applies to New Delhi, etc. So many different places. One thing that is extremely important is indeed to have situational awareness. Those of you who are out there living in these big cities, you have to be aware at all times of everything that is happening around you, and you need to keep safe. You need to be aware of people who are around you. You need to be aware of individuals who you get a bad feeling from. You know, this is probably a dangerous person who wants to harm me. You stay away from such people. You be aware of things that are happening in your city. You need to be aware of if something happens in your city to the point where it is going to be a major catastrophe. How do you escape? Have your escape route planned already beforehand. Don't wait until some major catastrophe happens in your city and then suddenly you think you're going to get out. Most likely you're not. So think about this beforehand. Have situational awareness. Be aware at all times of the situation physically that you find yourself in, and especially if you live in one of these bigger cities. Finally, and again, not really finally, I'm stopping this list with this last one, but truthfully, the list could be much longer. I'm just picking the most important things that I feel people should cultivate in themselves. Finally, fearlessness. Indeed, fearlessness. With everything that I have discussed, one of the most important things that we need to know is we are to be fearless at all times. This quality is the quality that will help us to make it through any situation, good or bad. And especially bad, especially if we find ourselves in any kind of emergency situation. We want to make sure that we do not have fear, because it is that fear itself that will keep us from making the right decisions and doing the right things that we need to do. As we know, what does Krishna say in Bhagavad Gita? Ma shuchaha, do not fear. He is speaking to us, the denizens of the Kali Yuga. In our current situation, he's telling us, do not fear. And if we can keep from being fearful, we will then always have our wits about us, and we will do the right thing. Very good. Several other things that I want to say, and again, I think people have seen at this point that, as I promised, this is a very practical talk. You know, people often accuse spiritual individuals, spiritual teachers, etc., of being very impractical, head up in the clouds, etc., etc. And what I've always told people from my serious study of spirituality, that is reading the Vedic scriptures, the very opposite is the truth. Vedic spirituality is the most practical thing in the world. So one other thing I want to talk about is getting healthy. At this point in our lives, again, when there is so much happening in the world, and again, we need our wits about us, and we need to be strong, etc., etc., we cannot afford to have unhealthy lifestyles anymore. And don't raise your hand, don't volunteer who you are, but I'm sure there must be someone in the audience right now who you eat a little bit too much fast food, you eat a little bit too much processed food, you don't exercise a lot, you've gotten a little bit obese, etc. You're not quite as strong physically as you should be, etc. Well, now is the time, in a very positive, very happy, very, very joyous way, to change that and indeed to become healthy. So first of all, educate yourself on nutrition. And I am by no means an expert on nutrition, neither do I pretend to be. I have done quite a bit of research for myself and myself alone. this is why I suggest that you do as well. Again, don't pretend to be an expert. Do your own research on nutrition. Find out what are foods and lifestyles that you should follow versus not follow in order to be as healthy as possible. The next thing that I would recommend is, indeed, if you are not already, please consider becoming a vegetarian. Not vegan, vegetarian, lacto-vegetarian. Being a vegetarian, again, and I'm doing this in this order, once you have done your research on nutrition and you know what you are doing, if you understand how nutrition works and you become a vegetarian, you will be practicing the most healthy diet on earth. I have been vegetarian for approximately the last 44 years. I'm pretty healthy. I'm extremely healthy. So again, look into becoming vegetarian. And I'm not going to go much deeper into that because there's so much that's available on vegetarianism that it would just be redundant. Do your own research. Next, as much as possible, try to eat organically. And believe me, I know organic food is expensive. That's why I said as much as is possible. So if you can supplement what you ordinarily eat with as much organic as possible, please try to do that. Please try to avoid food that has garbage in it, that has pesticides, preservatives, etc., and do your best to eat food that is as pure and organic as possible. Next thing, take herbs, take vitamins. Again, you need to do your own research on this. If you have any specific ailments that you know you need a little bit of help with, or if you just generally want more stamina, more strength, more energy, etc., then please look into this yourself and begin to take vitamins. I've told people in the past that, yes, I take a wide variety of very, very, very natural supplements. I take vitamins, I take herbs, etc., various tinctures, Ayurvedic tinctures, etc. I would ask that all of you please look into this as well. And again, keeping in mind that I'm not a doctor, I'm not giving you medical advice in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. I'm just giving very general advice. The next thing I would say, and in the age of COVID, this has become so difficult, and yet it is one of the things that will help us. Get sun. Get out into the sun. And what does that mean? Oh, get out into the sun by taking walks, by going to beautiful places in nature, having picnics in the sun, doing your meditation outside, etc., etc. Try to be outside where you can get fresh air, where you can get sunshine actually touching your skin, etc. And then finally, practice Ayurveda. People may or may not know this, but again, this is one of the wonderful things about Vedic civilization and Sanatana Dharma, is that we have indeed all of the elements of what constitutes an advanced civilization. That means medicine as well. That means health as well. We have our own Vedic medical system, and it's a natural system. It's called Ayurveda. That is the knowledge or the wisdom of life, Ayurveda. Please look into Ayurveda whenever you can. There are hundreds of books that are available. There are videos that are available. There's everything, websites everywhere. Look into Ayurveda and begin to practice, to slowly incorporate Ayurvedic practices into your life. Next thing that I want to say is a very clear extension of what I was just talking about, and that is being healthy. And that is, I would recommend to everyone who is out there that you become physically fit. Now, it's interesting, like with physical fitness, you'll see that everything I'm speaking about so far really applies to all of us, regardless of the situation that we find ourselves in externally. In other words, I'm talking about how, yes, right now things may get worse for the next several months until they get better. But truthfully, even if things are absolutely wonderful in the world, we still should be doing all these things nonetheless. But now especially, we do indeed need to do these things. So you need to get physically fit. What does that mean? That means everything. That means you need to get to the gym. If you have a gym near you, and who doesn't, again, especially if you're living in one of the more, let's say, economically advanced nations, if you're living in America and Canada, Argentina, Chile, if you're living in Europe, etc., Australia, New Zealand, everyone has gyms near them. In my case, I have, maybe 7 or 8 gyms within a 15-minute drive. So I'm very fortunate. Get to the gym. Get a gym membership as soon as you can. And don't just get the membership and keep the card or whatever you have in your wallet. Go to the gym. And very specifically, do weightlifting. Do cardio, absolutely, do cardio. Though truthfully, if you're going to do cardio, better to take power walks in nature, because that way you get the sun as well, and you get the good air as well as the cardio, where you're making your heart stronger. But if you go to the gym, yes, do cardio. But more than anything, always supplement the cardio with weights. Weights. Become physically strong as much as you can. Lift weights, lift barbells, dumbbells, etc. Use cables, use Smith machine, use all of these various tools that are there that will increase your physical strength, the strength of your limbs, your chest, etc. I've mentioned this many times that I'm a very serious weightlifter. Indeed, I was at the gym 3 hours ago and I was there for close to an hour and a half, I think, something like that. This is what I do, is I go to the gym multiple times a week. And I do it religiously, which is appropriate for me. I go to the gym and I lift and lift and lift and lift weights, and I lift heavy and I lift safely with the idea of becoming stronger and stronger. And right now, let me tell you, I am extremely physically strong. You too must do the same thing. Get to the gym. In addition, yoga, again, this is what's wonderful. Within the Vedic context, we also have so many ways of remaining healthy, including weightlifting. Actually, a lot of people may not know that weightlifting is Vedic as well. There have been people doing weightlifting in a yogic and Vedic context for thousands of years. So I don't want people to ever have this idea, because I'm about to mention yoga now, which is crucial. But I don't want people to have this false idea that, the only thing that Vedic people do for physical fitness is yoga. No, yoga as well. But even weightlifting is Vedic. Warriors, all sorts of even ordinary people have lifted weights in a Vedic context for, again, thousands of years. We have scriptural references to this. But now yoga. Yoga certainly is something that is extremely important for remaining physically fit and limber and energetic and having vitality and stamina and more, of course, bringing together, let's say, the body, mind, spirit complex. Practice yoga. If you've never practiced asanas before, take a yoga class. Do a little research first, because like with many things in the modern world, not all yoga classes are necessarily authentic. Do a little bit of research, find an authentic yoga class, start to take yoga. I mentioned nature hikes. This is another thing that I personally love doing as much as I can, and that is find beautiful places as deep in nature as you can go, as much as is practical. I mean, everyone lives in different sorts of circumstances. Like if you live in Brooklyn, for example, you're not going to find a lot of nature. Do the best that you can. Try to find some nature, even if it means just once a week. You have to drive a long distance. You have to drive an hour to get out deep into the countryside. Find someplace in nature and do beautiful hikes as much as possible. And have these be spiritual hikes. Have them be a combination of, yes, again, you're in the sun. You are breathing and bringing in that fresh air. You are looking all around you and seeing the peace and the harmony of nature. And also think of God as much as possible. Have it also be a spiritual experience. So in this way, in every way, you're benefiting yourself. Now, let me go on just a little touch more, and I am going to leave some time for questions, and I'll do that in just a short time. Again, just give me another 2 minutes or so. The last thing that I want to talk about is something that is indeed quite important, and that is the martial aspect of who we are. And that is learn self-defense. Learn self-defense in, again, a very positive, very healthy, very happy sort of way. Again, just like with gyms are omnipresent. They're all around us. Like I said, I have 7, 8 gyms within a 15-minute drive. There are also many places to learn martial arts. I would very strongly recommend that you indeed take up a martial art. Take up one that, again, is authentic, that is ancient. Try to avoid anything that's too new, but also take up something that is quite practical, that indeed will help you to defend yourself and to defend your family. So Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, for example, Muay Thai, for example, Shaolin Kung Fu, which is actually a very good form of martial arts. Taekwondo is also a good form of martial arts, and there are many others as well. So learn some form of martial arts that will, again, both help you as far as physical health and vitality, etc., that will make you stronger, but also in such a way that you will have the confidence to know that you can defend yourself, you can defend your family, you can defend good in any way that you need to. The very last thing that I'm going to say is this. And again, please understand, this is not in any way meant to alarm people or make people afraid or anything like this. As I've said, personally, I'm extremely optimistic. I know we are going to enter into a golden age very soon. But at the same time, I mentioned this in the past, and I have to say this again, and that is this. If you live, let's say in America, and you live in one of the top 25, 30, 35 cities of America, if you are somewhere else and you live in a massive city, please consider trying to move out of that city as soon as is possible and in a way that is within your means. Again, we should never panic. You should never make any kind of decision in a panicked sort of way, with the idea that, oh my Lord, I have to get out of the city right now and I have to just throw my possessions out the window and just leave. No, of course not. In whatever way is suitable for you, and only if you can, please consider leaving these very large cities and moving to areas that are safe. What does that mean? And again, I'm going to talk about the American context because that's what I know best. However this applies to you, wherever you are, yes, please just accept the wisdom as is applicable to you. And that is, let's say you live on one of the coasts of America. You live on the East Coast. You live in what sadly has become a truly hellish place, New York, which is where I'm from. I was born and raised in New York, and it makes me very sad to say this. If you live in a place like New York, which has become a living hell, if you live on the West Coast, somewhere in California, which also has become hellish, or you live in Portland, Oregon, if you live in any of these places where indeed conditions have become violent and crime-filled and very bad, try to leave. And again, do this in a very intelligent way. Take your time, wherever you go, make sure that you have a nice job waiting for you, etc. Do this in a very systematic, very planned sort of way. But I would suggest that you move either to a much smaller city, that is, let's say, roughly a city of certainly less than 1 million people, that's for sure. The smaller the city, the better. If you can move to a suburb, that's good as well. If you can certainly move to the countryside altogether and start to live a more rural sort of existence. If indeed you have the money to do so and you know how to do farming, if you want to buy some sort of nice little family farm and live in a situation like that. However you need to do this, please consider getting out of the cities if you can, the big cities. Because sadly, again, with the big cities as well, things will continue to get worse until they get better. And truthfully, again, like with all the advice I've been giving for this entire duration of tonight, this all actually applies regardless of what's happening in the world. Even if things were not going as badly as they are now, I would still recommend all these things. You see, this is just a last personal aside that I'm going to give. And then we're going to go to questions and answers. But this is just a personal aside. Again, I was born and raised in New York City, in Brooklyn. I spent much of my time in Manhattan specifically. And I went from one of the biggest, certainly the most important city on earth. It's debatable whether it's London or New York. People will debate. I'm from New York, so for me, it's New York. I went from a very big city to a smaller city, to a smaller city, to a smaller city. And truthfully, my personal goal is ultimately to be indeed in as rural as an area as is possible. So that's my own personal goal. Let that be your goal as well, because rural is more sattvic. than urban. Cities, especially in the last 100 years or so, and especially in America and Europe, cities are hellish. Today, especially in 2020, to live in one of these top cities, again, New York, Chicago, Detroit, Los Angeles, and to expect that you can live a fully sattvic and spiritual lifestyle is not realistic. It simply isn't. And yes, simply being nicely motivated is not enough. Simply sincerity is not enough. You need to place yourself in an environment that is sattvic. And all the yogic literature agrees with this. So try to move to a place that is more sattvic. So with that, I'm going to stop here. I hope that this information and this advice was valuable to you. Again, as I promised you, very practical. And with that, again, thank you for listening to my discourse. And we will now take questions from the audience. So if you have any questions about anything that we discussed, either now or if you have any questions about anything regarding Vedic spirituality, now please is the time to begin asking. And as people are writing in their questions, I'm looking at some of the questions here. I'm going to answer this one just for fun, actually, because I like revealing things to people about Vedic spirituality that most people who even practice Vedic spirituality may not even be aware of. So this person asks, is wrestling Vedic? Is there wrestling in the Mahabharata? Wrestling is indeed tremendously Vedic. Wrestling is mentioned quite literally in the Vedic scriptures. It's mentioned, yes, in the Mahabharata, Srimad Bhagavatam, several of the Puranas. Wrestling is itself considered to be something that is Vedic. Absolutely. Vedic wrestling is somewhat akin to ancient Greco-Roman wrestling, if you want to get kind of a visual image of what it looks like, except better and more powerful. So yes, wrestling is indeed Vedic. Very good. And again, just give me a few moments, please. I'm looking for some questions. Sri Ram wished me a delayed happy birthday. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. My birthday was August 26th, and I appreciate that very, very much. And yes, I will be contacting you, and we will arrange a one-on-one discussion between the two of us. Very good. John Fortuna asks, Dear Sri Acharyaji, I am wondering if you can briefly explain the yogic technical aspects of long hair. Yes, briefly. I mean, truthfully, I can go into it very, very in depth, but I'm just looking at the time, and I'll answer this very briefly. Indeed, I think at one point someone asked me something about this at a different live stream, where someone asked me about long hair. And for those who know, I have long hair. Right now I have it in a ponytail, but actually I have quite long hair. When it's let loose, it actually comes down pretty much to here, more or less. And indeed, yogis of the past and legitimately yogis today indeed do have long hair. That's the standard for yogis. The reason why this is the case is that it does indeed help with yoga, and very specifically, and again, this is getting very technical, very specifically, yogis have the ability, when they so choose, to, let me just state it this way to not make it very technical. They have the ability to store prana, excess prana, in their hair. This is one of, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why yogis have long hair. And again, it's something that not many people are aware of, but when you have long hair, you have the ability to store pranic energy in that hair. Thus, we know that one of the techniques of yoga is pranayama, that is the cultivation of vitality through breathing exercises. This is something that I've done for many years, something that yogis do. But when it gets to the point where you are indeed thoroughly saturated with prana, you need to then store it somewhere. Number one, there's the need of storing it somewhere. But also, it is, even if there isn't the need per se, it is nice to store that excess prana for when you then need it. So yogis will often store that vitality, that energy in their hair, and this also gives them what many people call miraculous abilities. Thus, interestingly, even in the Old Testament, even in the biblical Old Testament, you have the story of Samson. Samson was an individual who had long hair, and physically he had tremendous prowess. And to make a long story short, the way that he was defeated was he was tricked and his hair was cut off, and he lost all of his strength. Well, it's a very similar sort of concept in yoga, that you have the ability to store vitality in your hair that you can then use either for then physical vitality or for more spiritual purposes, but also to perform what are called siddhis, or mystical sorts of miracles, let's just say. So yes, that's the connection between long hair and yoga. And again, there's much more to say, but I see we have very little time. All right, this is a very interesting question. I think becoming a lawyer is the best way that I can help my community, but given the state of academia, do you have any advice for choosing a university? Thank you. Yes, this is something that I probably can give you a little bit of advice on. Yes, indeed, this is an enormous problem that we have seen throughout the university system in America, in Europe, in so many places. And that is that they have been corrupted. Universities have been corrupted, and when you go to such places, unfortunately, these are more like, they have become more like brainwashing institutions than places of learning. So this is what I would recommend is, first of all, absolutely do your research. You may have to find an alternative university. You know, I'm sure that looking at your name especially, I'm sure you're not Christian per se, but sadly you may have to find a religious university, maybe a Catholic university or some sort of Christian university, where at the very least they have some sort of spiritual values, even if they're not Vedic per se. And I would certainly recommend, again, doing your research, finding a good university, and then going there and holding your nose the entire time you're there. You see, I had the same experience. I earned my PhD from University of Wisconsin-Madison. I had to hold my nose. Why? I would say at least half, maybe the majority of individuals in the graduate program that I was in were all Marxists. They were all communists. They were all anti-Vedic. And what did I do? I held my nose and I just did my work and I graduated. And often, unfortunately, that's what you need to do. So I hope that's somewhat helpful. But congratulations on wanting to become a lawyer. Yes, we actually need more lawyers, more good lawyers, I should say, in this world. Dharmic lawyers. We need good people in every field. Sri Acharyaji, do the Vedic texts say anything about possible earth changes, such as earthquakes during the transition? Thank you. Generally speaking, yes, definitely. Not about this specific transition period per se. It doesn't get that specific, but generally speaking, the Vedic scriptures are indeed very clear that when there is indeed a transition taking place from one significant era to another, certainly in between yugas this is the case, but also let's say, in between significant time periods within a yuga. So indeed, the time period that we're in right now, and that we have been in for close to two decades actually. I've spoken about this again in several of my previous videos where I talk about the coming golden age, that indeed one thing that we experience are indeed earthquakes, are indeed storms, are indeed floods. More than anything, as far as earth changes, what we experience are floods. This is called pralaya. We have this period where there are floods and floods and floods, and these serve both symbolically but as well as practically to purify the land, to purify the world. Symbolically, of course, we know that water is considered to be purifying. What are you doing? You use water to clean. Well, in between periods, we see a lot of floods. And beginning with the great tsunami of, I believe it was 2004. Please forgive me if I'm off by a year. It was 2003 or 4, something like that, that hit Southeast Asia and hundreds of thousands of people died, to then literally hundreds of floods that we have experienced from then till now that have been record-breaking. I remember for years I would see this in the news again and again. A flood hit Australia, a flood hit France, a flood hit Brazil, hit this place, that place, and the news articles were always the same. Record-breaking, record-breaking, record-breaking. All these articles about these hundreds of floods would just repeat this again and again. Indeed, we have had tremendous floods, and this is a sign that we are in the midst of a transition. Very good. All right, just due to time, sadly, actually, two things. I saw a question that I have to answer, but first I just want to read this comment, and this is from Mr. Odenswulf. Namaste Acharyaji, thank you very much for the gift of the Donar mantras. It was greatly appreciated by some of us, Asatturar. Hail Acharyaji. Absolutely my pleasure. And thank you for your thanks. Thank you for your comment. And this is indeed the last question I'm now going to answer because I just saw it and it's important. And the question is, are the Agory an authentic expression of devotion to Shiva? It seems very dark with the cannibalism, etc. The Agory are satanic. You see, this is what's interesting, and this is something it's unfortunate that I just saw this question, and it's unfortunate I have zero time now, because this is something I can actually explain for an hour. This is another mistake, sadly, that people make, and people make so many mistakes when it comes to approaching Vedic spirituality, but this is yet another one, that people make the mistake that simply because something is in Vedic clothing, thus necessarily it must be authentic. No, absolutely not. It doesn't matter that these Agoris look like yogis. It doesn't matter that their tradition has gone back for quite a few hundred years. It doesn't matter that they have their own gurus. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. What they are doing is 100% opposed to the Vedic scriptures. And how do we know whether something is authentically Vedic? The answer is in the question. Vedic. It is in the Vedic scriptures. That's how we know whether something is authentically Vedic. So everything that these people believe and do goes against the Vedic scriptures, including the Shaiva Agama, including the very scriptures of authentic and traditional Shaivism itself. You see, this is what people lose sight of. In every religion, you have the majority of people who, in one way or another, are trying to do the right thing. But in every religion, you then have that tiny minority of individuals who are just evil, and they misuse the very religion itself in order to practice black arts, in order to practice Luciferianism. Evil. Well, in the same way, sadly, within the Vedic context, these people are known as Agoris. And these are individuals who are evil. These are people who everything that they're doing is the very mirror opposite of Vedic spirituality. And they are doing this very much on purpose. So this is why we do not accept anything having to do with the Agory tradition as being in any way Vedic, in any way authentic, in any way anything that anyone with any sincerity should be following. In fact, on the contrary, I will tell you point blank, stay away from Agorys as much as possible, because these people are the satanic pedophiles of Sanatana Dharma. I'm sorry to say that. These people are the satanic pedophiles of the so-called Vedic tradition. These people indeed are not Vedic in any way whatsoever. They have latched themselves on to the term Vedic, but what they are doing is evil. These people are abusive. These people harm people. They murder people. These people do all sorts of evil activities, and it's not a matter of puritarianism. It's not just that they eat meat. It's not just that they smoke ganja. No, these people harm people in the name of their evil black religion. So yes, we have nothing to do with Agorys whatsoever. Very good. So with that, I am indeed going to stop here because it's a few minutes past the hour. I want to thank you all very much for being here with me. And again, this was a much more practical talk. And I hope that you derived some practical benefit from this, as well as some spiritual inspiration. Because again, this is the important thing, is that it is always wise to be prepared, regardless of where or when you find yourself. It's always good to be prepared. It's always good to be strong. It's always good to be disciplined. It's always good to be your best self. It's always good. But at the same time, yes, we have reason to be nothing but optimistic about the future of the world and about this golden age that is indeed coming. And with that, I thank you very much. If you have not done so yet, please subscribe to this channel. Please visit our website, dharmacentral.com. When you're there, feel free to join our email list. When you're there, please look at our information about becoming a member of the International Sanatana Dharma Society. If you can, please become a member, a monthly tithing member. And with that, God willing, I will see you again next Monday at 7 p.m. In the meantime, all of you, in every way, and now especially you know why I say this, please take good care of yourselves. Jaya Shriman Narayana. Jaya Bhagavan Shri Krishna. Jaya Shri Guru. Sanatana Dharma Jayate. Victory to Sanatana Dharma. And with that, namaste. Until next time.